Welcome to Abbey of Novacella. So in 1142, it was Hartmannus came from Vienna to found here in Brixen an Augustinian monastery, Abbey of Novacella. And so we have this very long history. Today it's 883 years as a monastery. So it still be run as an Augustinian monastery. There are 14 monks still living and working here actually. Augustinian monks are not like Benedictine monks working in the vineyards or in the winery, but they are priests. So their role is to act as a priest in the different parishes. There are 25 parishes in the surroundings of Novacella where the monks are going to work. And we are here in this beautiful basilica of the Abbey. This was built up in the 12th century in a Roman style, then converted in a Gothic style, and then again 18th century, so around 1735, converted in this beautiful Baroque or Rococo style. So you see lots of history here in Novacella in terms of buildings, of history as a monastery, history of the Augustinian order as well. We are here in this beautiful cloister, which is in Gothic style. So it was built in the 15th century, more or less. And it's the connection between the church, the basilica, and the area where the monks are living. So up there, the stairs up there behind, there on the upper floor are the rooms of the monks. On the lower floor was used to be the eating room of the monks. Today there is the museum. This painting is about the founding of Abbey of Novacella. You have on one side Hartmannus, he came from Vienna, from Klosterneuburg, and was an Augustinian monk. He was then Bishop of Bressanone, and decided to found Abbey of Novacella. On the other side, you have the donators, the family of Regibert of Sabiona, and he had a boy, but the boy died when he was a kid, and so he didn't have anyone to give all his belongings, nobody of the family, so he decided to donate all to Hartmannus in order he was able to found Abbey of Novacella. And so since the beginnings, Abbey of Novacella was quite a rich monastery, which did also, since the beginnings, own some vineyards. And therefore, we are one of the oldest wine producers of the world with a continuous history as well. So for the Augustinian monks, singing always has been very important, and therefore they still today are singing a lot, and therefore we have here in the museum a lot of those instruments and books they were using. Teaching always has been very important in Novacella, and therefore you have a lot of books here in our monastery. We are talking about more or less 95,000 books you can find in different library rooms, and here that's the most beautiful, the biggest one, with around 20,000 books in it. There are religious books, but on the upper floor you have also books from other themes like law, mathematics, chemistry, so kind of everything. As I say, they were used to teach, and the oldest books actually are dating back to the 1200s, so now more than 800 years old. Here is one of the oldest ones we have here. So it was written in the 13th century, so in the 1200s. So we are here in the so-called Chinese room. You see all these Chinese motifs on different sides of the rooms. The room was painted or created in 1780, so 250 years ago, but it was discovered only 5 years ago. So until 5 years, all the room was painted in gray. And 5 years ago, we did a research on the different layers of color, and below the 7th layer, we found this huge painting here. It took 18 months, so 1 year and a half, to take away all the different layers of color, and today is, of course, one of the most beautiful rooms we see here in Novacella. So we are here in front of the Fountain of the World Wonders. We have all the 7 world wonders on each side, or on the different sides of this fountain. And on the 8th side, you see it here, they put Abbey of Novacella like it was the 8th world wonder. So just outside the monastery, we're in the middle of the vineyards, and these vineyards always were part of Abbey of Novacella. And since the beginning or the founding of Abbey of Novacella in 1142, here are vineyards, and out of these vineyards the abbey did make wine. And so we have a continuous history of wine production for 883 years, and are considered one of the oldest wineries all over the world with a continuous wine production history. We are here in Valle Isarco, which is one of the coolest wine growing areas in Italy, so one of the northernmost, one of the highest ones. Our vineyards are starting at an elevation of 600 meters, going up to 900 meters, and all on these steep slopes, which makes the wines quite unique. So our wines generally are fresh, are fruity, and due to these mineral soils we have, very mineral salty as well. Down there we see the historic garden of Novacella, and it's in 3 parts, or it's 3 parts, different parts of garden. One is the Baroccan garden, this part which is the closest to us. Then we have in the middle a herbal garden, and on the south is an apple garden. So there are historical historic apple varieties. And it was until just a couple of years ago, it was just a relaxing area for the monks. So it was just allowed to the monks to go there, to enter into the garden. Now we changed it a little bit, and for a couple of years now also visitor can go into the garden for a couple of days, like 3 days a week, and then the rest of the week is again closed just for the monks.
Here we are in Abbazia di Novacella, and we have Werner Waldboth. Sorry for my pronunciation. Abbazia di Novacella is producing wine since 1100, and is probably one of the most ancient abbey producing wine, or wine producer in the world. And here we are in the wine tasting room after we visited the beautiful, incredible complex of the Abbey. And Werner will talk now more specifically about the wine production since they started and which kind of wine they produce.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. So we are now switching to the wine part. As Abbey of Novacella is producing wine for almost 900 years, right? But of course, in the beginnings, it was not producing wines to sell it then on 40 or 50 markets all over the world, but it was to satisfy their own needs, or their own consumption, or they did produce wines. In other words, they did produce wines for liturgy, for the employees, and then for selling it to people which were stopping by here in Novacella and drinking a glass of wine. And only 100 years ago, so 150 years ago, slowly we started selling wines at the beginning just to restaurants or hotels or people nearby, and then starting from the 1960s, then more and more to the rest of the nation as well, to Italy as well. And then a big improvement in our production and our quality came in 1997, when our still actor winemaker Celestino Lucin joined the team, and he had a big quality focus, and he started really to try to make high quality white wines out of the typical grape varieties of the area, because Valle Isarco is a little bit different of the rest of Alto Adige. It's the coolest valley here, and therefore we are working with little different grape varieties, like we have here Sylvaner, or we have Müller-Thurgau as well, Kerner, Riesling, Grüner Veltliner. So first of all, Austrian and German grape varieties which are cultivated today, and so he was trying to focus on these varieties and make out of these varieties very unique wines which show what makes the region, the territory here, or the terroir so unique.
Thank you. You mentioned these grapes that are white, but you said before most of the production in the 60s was red. And why did you switch to the white mostly? And are some of these grapes autochthonous, typical of the Valle Isarco region?
So in Valle Isarco it was a little bit different. So what I mentioned before is that Alto Adige in the 60s, 70s until the early 80s did produce mostly red wines, like 80%. But it was different here in Valle Isarco. We never were able to produce red wines, and therefore already in 1623, so 400 years ago, the monks started to buy vineyards further south for the production of red wines. And therefore, we as a winery have 20% of reds as well, because they are coming from vineyards further south. The monks understood already 400 years ago that red wine in Valle Isarco is too acid and therefore not healthy. And therefore we always had just these whites. Alto Adige as a whole then in the 80s, 90s understood that the whole area at the end is suited better for whites, and so slowly they started to invest in white wines, and today whole Alto Adige is mostly a white wine producer, but Valle Isarco always was whites. Are there some indigenous grape varieties? Actually not. Most of the grape varieties we are cultivating today came to Alto Adige at the middle of the 19th century, so 1850 more or less, and it was Lord Johann from Austria bringing all these new grape varieties because they understood, the farmers here understood that the indigenous white grape varieties were there or are it is not possible to make high quality wines out of it. You still have a little bit of it in Alto Adige. It's like one of it is it's Blattale called. That's a grape variety indigenous from Alto Adige, white one, or Versoalen. It's a other white indigenous grape variety from Valle Isarco, but it's just small production because the quality potential is quite low, and therefore today we are cultivating mostly grape varieties which came only a little bit later out of the Gewürztraminer, which is very historical for Alto Adige and cultivated here for several centuries.
Gewürztraminer. Okay, now we are having Traminer.
Now we have Sylvaner.
Sylvaner, yeah. Sylvaner. And these two wines you just opened are from Sylvaner, but I guess are different each other.
They're not different each other. Why Sylvaner, first of all? Because Sylvaner is the most historical one. So it's not indigenous because it comes from Austria, and it came to Alto Adige only a little bit later, when Alto Adige was still being part of Austria, actually. Yeah. But it came to us in the middle of the 19th century. But it became then quite fastly the most important grape variety in this valley. And so there is a very strong historical connection between us and this grape variety, and therefore I'm pouring it. On the other hand, it has a huge quality and aging potential, in our opinion. And in theory, we have 2 times the same wine here in our glasses. It's the Sylvaner Prepositus. Prepositus is our selection, so the top wine.
Is the taller bottle?
And no, it's both bottles. The other one is the 2023 vintage, and the other one is the 2006 vintage. So aged for like 16 years now, or 17 years now. And the idea is to show you what the aging potential of this grape varieties is. And it's simply that back then we were using this bottle, and now we are using this bottle.
It's quite unusual for a white to be aged so long. And I wonder, how do you age the Sylvaner?
Yeah, in terms of winemaking, it's mostly stainless steel, so like 60% stainless steel, a little bit of big acacia wood, like 30% big acacia cast, and then 10% are aged in barrique. Small portion, yeah, and they do a malolactic fermentation as well. So this gives the wine a little bit more creaminess. But generally, we're focusing a lot on the primary aromas, on the fruit, on the freshness, and therefore mostly stainless steel. I think the region has all the ingredients to make wine age, or the grapes of the region have those ingredients. They have structure, so power, and they have freshness, acidity, and therefore it's quite easy for us to make white wines age. And I think kind of every single grape variety in our portfolio can age for at least 10 years, and some of them can age for 20, or a Sylvaner probably even 40 years.
Incredible. Oh, and how many degrees, alcohol degrees, they arrive to?
We are, so it's mid-level more or less, so we are 13.5 degrees of alcohol with the Sylvaner, yeah.
Okay, and I can smell the aroma from here. That is incredibly rich and full of personality. And this is 23, which is pretty young.
Yeah. Yeah, you have more this apple and pear aromas on this one, right? On the younger one, and then a little bit of this buttery creaminess you feel on the nose as well.
Yeah. And the aged one.
And then when you taste it, it gets way more intense. So you have a rich aroma of ripe fruits.
Brothers, but so different.
Completely different.
Completely different. You can compare the color, and the elder brother is a bit darker and a tiny bit amber, but not so much. Yeah. The 2023 is really light and fresh, and definitely is influenced by the apple and pears that comes from the terroir of the area. Yeah. And the aged one develop all this in something different that you can appreciate. There is an Italian definition which is meditation wine. Okay, yeah. This is perfect for when you need a moment particular.
Yeah, but if you taste it, it still have a lot of freshness. Yeah. So it's also still being very food friendly, because you have freshness. You have this quite intense aromas, of course, of the aged wines, but then on the palate, a lot of spiciness, a lot of good acidity still after those 17 years. And therefore, in my opinion, this wine can still age for several years.
Yeah, yeah. Can we taste it?
Of course.
Point? It's really attractive, can I tell you? It's very, very pleasant and light and fresh, the 2023 one, but strong at the same time. You can feel the body that can allow to arrive to this age.
It has structure, but it's still being an Alpine wine, and that's our idea. So our wines don't have to be too much body to be too heavy, but they still have to have this light character. You just look at us outside. We are in the middle of the mountains. We have almost 3,000 peaks, meter high peaks in the surroundings. So why shouldn't the wine here be light? And that's what we want to have our wines, not too heavy, but light or fresher, more elegant.
Yeah. How high over the sea level are we now?
We are here at Novacella at more or less 600 meters.
600
and our
meters.
vineyards are going up to almost 900 meters actually. Yeah.
Okay. That's fascinating. How long is the time the wine spent in the bottle?
The wine normally is for 10 months in the barrel, then it gets bottled, and then for a minimum of 2 months in the bottle before getting released. This wine was in the bottle now for 2006, so it's like 17 years in the bottle. So it's not the actual vintage, of course. So this was just bottles, and we still have.
And during the period, do you change the cork?
We didn't anything. So
You don't do anything?
No, this is just the wine out from our library. So you can buy this bottle actually.
Okay.
It's not
You
the same.
use natural cork or
We are using
silicone?
no, all natural cork.
All natural cork.
All natural cork.
That's interesting. Yeah. And do you season in the bottle vertical or horizontal?
Horizontal. Horizontal. Yeah, it's we are discussing on this a lot. So if you have the right cellar and the best conditions in your cellar, it doesn't matter if you pour it vertical or horizontal. But the problem is sometimes in cellars you don't have enough humidity, and if then the cellar you have it vertical and you don't have any humidity in your cellar, then this could affect the cork.
Yeah.
And in this case, you should put it horizontal.
Horizontal.
Yeah. But if you have a cellar like we have with 70-80% of humidity, it doesn't really matter if put it like this or like this.
Okay. Thank you.
So our second wine is a Kerner, which is a quite a new grape variety created just 100 years ago, so in 1929 in Germany, and doing a cross between German Riesling and Schiava. The result was quite surprising. You have this very fresh, fruity white wine, which has this beautiful flavor of white peaches, and then a little bit of floral character as well, going almost towards elderflower aromas. It came to our area in the 1980s, 1990s, and quite soon it became more and more popular. And today it is actually the most planted grape variety. So it was Sylvaner before, but for a couple of years now, like 7 years now, or 8, Kerner has become the most important grape variety in terms of hectares planted, also in terms of productions. And it's a very beautiful modern wine because it combines fruit, freshness, minerality, and spiciness.
Amazing. And how old is this? How age?
That's a 2023 vintage.
Okay.
So it's
young as well.
The most recent vintage. The wine is aged just in stainless steel because we want to keep this primary fruit, this freshness, and therefore it ages for 10 months on the fine lees in stainless steel, and then it gets bottled and aged for at least 2 more months in the bottle, and then we are releasing it after 1 year.
interesting. Completely different from the Sylvaner. This remembers me more herbs, aromatic herbs.
Yeah. So the Sylvaner maybe had a little bit more power, more structure. This was the fresher one.
Yeah. It reminds you the country, the air, the herbs in flowers in spring. It's perfect to drink this wine in a day like this in mid-spring. The color is extraordinary.
Has a little bit of this greener touch, right?
Yeah.
And
This is, I suppose, is 13 as well, somehow. Degrees.
Yeah, it's for a little bit more. It's 14.
Ah, a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, Kerner mentioned before it's a cross between Riesling and Schiava, and Schiava tends to high yields. But in order to give the wine structure, we need to reduce the yields and go up with the sugar level. And this then brings a little higher alcohol.
Yeah. Very pleasant. And do you age this Kerner as well?
We are aging it as well. It ages very good as well. It has a similar aging as a Riesling has. As it is son of Riesling, it gets then also this kind of petrol notes, this ripe stone fruit like apricot and stuff. So it's quite similar to Riesling, and after like 10 years, it's not too easy to distinguish it from an aged Riesling.
Wonderful.
Next wine in your glass is in our glass is Gewürztraminer, and Gewürztraminer is one of the most important grape varieties in whole Alto Adige. So Alto Adige, I think, in Italy is famous for its Gewürztraminer, which is for a long time Gewürztraminer was considered as an indigenous grape variety from Alto Adige. Today, with some DNA proofs, they said no, probably might not be from here, but exactly nobody knows at the end of the day. We are quite sure that the name Gewürztraminer is related to Alto Adige because you have a community in Alto Adige which is Tramin, and for several centuries they already there are using this name Gewürztraminer. The only thing we don't exactly know if back then the grape variety was right the same. But they had the Gewürztraminer, but nobody can prove today which grape variety exactly was. Today Gewürztraminer is, as I said, quite famous for us, and it's always this very aromatic, very fruity wine, a little bit lower in acidity, but quite mouth filling. So it's more this this wine, you mentioned it first, wine for meditation. I consider Gewürztraminer wine for meditation. So you can just sit down and drink a glass and think about the word.
The aroma invite you to enjoy naturally, to feel the nature. Is full of fruits. Remembers me rock melon, that I don't think are rock melons around, but the combination, and as we said, we don't know the origin why Traminer became Gewürz, which means, Werner told me before, spiced. Someone one day said, this is not the usual Traminer, this is more spiced.
Probably,
I guess,
yes.
I guess, by fantasy. But the result is extraordinary, and you enjoy. And finally, wine is a sensorial experience. It's a full sentiment of your body experience. Cannot be just a scientific approach where you say, the DNA, as we said just before. So at the end, wine is something to make your life better quality. Mm. This is surprising, and even for me, even a different density is more thick. This wine is more important, the body of this wine, I feel personally. But the aroma is extraordinary. And when you do this movement, is to give air to the wine and to develop all the potential in terms of smell. Then you put in your mouth, and it's an incredible exercise of joy to make the wine goes around your mouth, and in this way you can feel the second level, the third level, more deep in the spirit of this wine that brings you something deep from the territory it's coming from.
Next wine in your glasses, in our glasses, Gewürztraminer, and Gewürztraminer is one of the most important grape varieties in whole Alto Adige. So Alto Adige, I think, in Italy is famous for its Gewürztraminer, which is for a long time Gewürztraminer was considered as an indigenous grape variety from Alto Adige. Today, with some DNA proofs, they said no, probably might not be from here, but exactly nobody knows at the end of the day. We are quite sure that the name Gewürztraminer is related to Alto Adige because you have a community in Alto Adige which is Tramin, and for several centuries they already there are using this name Gewürztraminer. The only thing we don't exactly know if back then the grape variety was right the same. But they had the Gewürztraminer, but nobody can prove today which grape variety exactly was. Today Gewürztraminer is, as I said, quite famous for us, and it's always this very aromatic, very fruity wine, a little bit lower in acidity, but quite mouth filling. So it's more this this wine, you mentioned it first, wine for meditation. I consider Gewürztraminer wine for meditation. So you can just sit down and drink a glass and think about the word.
The aroma invite you to enjoy naturally, to feel the nature. It's full of fruits. Remembers me rock melon, that I don't think are rock melons around, but the combination, and as we said, we don't know the origin, why Traminer became Gewürz, which means, Werner told me before, spiced. Someone one day said, this is not the usual Traminer, this is more spiced.
Probably,
I guess,
yes.
I guess, by fantasy. But the result is extraordinary, and you enjoy. And finally, wine is a sensorial experience. It's a full sentiment of your body experience. Cannot be just a scientific approach where you say, the DNA, as we said just before. So at the end, wine is something to make your life better quality. This is surprising, and even for me, even a different density is more thick. This wine is more important, the body of this wine, I feel personally. But the aroma is extraordinary. And when you do this movement, is to give air to the wine and to develop all the potential in terms of smell. then you put in your mouth, and it's an incredible exercise of joy to make the wine goes around your mouth, and in this way you can feel the second level, the third level more deep in the spirit of this wine that brings you something deep from the territory it's coming from. So, thank you very much, Werner. This has been a really pleasant experience to know, to visit the Abbey and to know your wine production and to taste such a wonderful wines. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your visit. It was a real pleasure to have you here at Novacella and to show you this quite unique place, I think.
Absolutely.
We have here.
Absolutely.